In questa conversazione tra Big Luca e John Demartini, avvenuta durante l'agosto del 2020, scoprirai tutto quello che c'è da sapere sulla scala dei valori, sul mindset corretto per raggiungere i propri obiettivi economici e non, su alcuni dei migliori metodi di risparmio e investimento forzosi e molto altro. Buona visione.
Hey everybody, this is Big Luca and I'm here today with John Demartini. Hi John, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. So, first of all, thank you for accepting my invitation, for being here today. We're having a bit of a challenge. Well, I'm having a bit of a challenge with my technology, but hopefully I'm gonna get this recorded without problem. So, first of all, John Demartini has been one of the people that has helped me the most. Of course, he doesn't know that, but I do, with my life, in determining my values and breaking through certain situations and challenges that I've had throughout my life. And he is very well known for his value determination system and his whole deal about values. So John, what can you tell us about values and how do values affect our lives?
Well, that's a good one. Thank you. Every human being lives by a set of priorities, a set of values, things that are most to least important in their lives. Whatever's highest on their list of values, highest in their priorities, they are spontaneously inspired to do from within. It's an intrinsic value. They're disciplined, they're reliable, they're focused to fulfill that. But as they go down the list of priorities, they become more extrinsic and need external motivation to get them to do it. So anytime you're not filling your day with high priority actions that spontaneously inspire you, that you truly want to fulfill, that you feel called to fulfill, you're devaluing yourself and depreciating your potential as an expression of a human being. So your brain is set up to help you fulfill what's highest in your value. It filters your reality, your perceptions, your decisions, and your actions accordingly. And if you know what that highest value is, your identity revolves around it. And if you actually pursue that and structure your life in a way you can live by priority according to it, delegating all the lower priority things to others who are inspired to do those, you liberate yourself from a lot of baggage and bondage that hold you back in a quiet life of desperation. But if you actually live by priority, you get to fulfill a life of inspiration. So I'm a firm believer in helping people identify what their highest value is and how to structure their life so they can fulfill it, so they can build momentum, incremental momentum, and expand their space and time horizons and go on to greater achievements and wake up their naturally dormant, emerging leader that sits inside them. So the hierarchy of your values dictates your destiny, dictates your financial destiny, or every area of your life is impacted by those values.
Okay, so let's talk about wealth, because a lot of people want to be wealthy and a lot of people want to have passive income and they don't. What can you tell us about that?
Well, if you ask people how many want to be financially independent, everybody will put their hand up. Most everybody. But if you ask how many are, 99% will put their hand down in a general audience. In a specific entrepreneurial audience, it may be a little higher percentage that are moving in the direction of it. But the majority of people, when they think about wealth, they think of spending money on the lifestyle of the rich and famous. And they buy consumables that are high-priced brands to live vicariously through other people's brands instead of building their own brand and putting their money into true assets that give them a passive income. If you don't have a higher value on buying assets that bring a passive income than you do on immediate gratifying consumables and depreciables, the probability of being financially independent is low. So you have to look at what your true values are and what you really want. Do you want immediate gratification or do you want long-term results? If you have a long-term vision for wealth building, you will crescendo your wealth as time goes through time. But if you want immediate gratification, you will constantly, eventually decrescendo your wealth as you go on, because you probably won't be driven in your 50s and 60s and 70s as much, and you'll decline in your life. So immediate gratification costs wealth. Long-term vision typically pays it. And you really, truly have to have a value on wealth building and truly buying assets and know the distinctions. And I started doing that. Up until age 27, I was good at making money, but I was spending it. And I was buying for things, saving money to buy things, buy a car, buy a house, buy this, buy a trip, buy books, whatever. It wasn't until I turned 27 when I asked 10 questions and shifted my values to actually start to buy assets that my financial independence began. I'm more than financially independent today. I would not have to work ever again. But that didn't start out that way. It started at 27 and I started to change my trajectory. There are 10 questions that are crucial to know if you're going to be financially independent. If you don't know the answers to these 10 questions, you really have no intention of really being financially independent. If you don't mind, I'd like to share this.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. The first one is very basic. What is your total assets right now? Your current total assets. And that means everything that's actually an asset. An asset is something that's actually earning you money, not costing you money. Somebody's putting money in your pocket, not taking it out. That could be stocks with dividends and capital gain growth. It could be rental properties, it's giving rental income. But it's true equity in a house. It's the real equity and real asset you have. You need to know where you are. You need to have your financial house in order. Money circulates through the economy from those who have the least value on money to those who have the most, and who has the least order to those who have the most order. And it always ends up in the people that have a high value and high order around wealth. That's where the money goes. So first of all, what is your total assets? Once you have that, and it's clear and concise, and it's a real number, not a wishy-washy nebulous thing, but a real number, then you want to know, what is your liabilities? What are the true liabilities that you're sitting on right now? Once you know what that is, and it's a real number, you then subtract the liabilities from the assets to get the third one, which is, what is your total net worth right now? You need to know where you are, you need to know where you're going, and you need to have a strategy if you want financial independence. Wishing and fantasizing and hoping and thinking it's going to happen, I've never seen happen. Rarely does that happen. Where are you? Assets minus liabilities, total net worth. The fourth question is, what do you want to live on passively? What is your targeted amount you want to live on passively that you will call financial independence? Is it $100,000? Is it a $200,000, $500,000, $1 million a year, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million a year? How much do you want to passively have coming in? So you have now a target that you're shooting for. If you don't have any target, it's hard to go after something. It's like getting in an Uber and saying, I don't know where I am, I don't know where I'm going, but take me there. It's not likely to happen. So you need to have an objective. And it has to be real. Something you're really willing to work for, something that your life demonstrates truly important to you, not a whim. The next one is, what is the average interest rate you can earn passively on your assets conservatively that you feel absolutely certain you can earn conservatively on an annual basis? Your passive, conservative, annual income, what can it be? Is it 6%, 7%, 9%, 10%, 12%? What do you really, truly believe? Not fantasies, but what can you guarantee you can earn? And I'd rather be conservative and estimate realistically than set up fantasies. The next question, that's number 3, 4, 5 now. Number 6 is, what is the inflation rate you're going to face? That's going to be based on the currency, the fiat currency printing. What is it going to erode that? What's that inflationary rate going to be? 2%, 3%? What's that going to be? The question is, how much total net worth you require earning that interest rate minus that inflation rate to give you that amount you say you want per year? How much net worth you require to give you that? These are real numbers. These are not fantasies. These are real friggin' numbers. I did this at age 27, and I had to get grounded, and I had to get real to put a real strategy to get something objective in place. Once I had that number, in my case, I thought I'd like to have $100,000. That was 1982. I thought I'd like to have $100,000. When I was 27, $100,000 passive income seemed okay. That's the equivalent of about $500,000 today. But I thought about $100,000. I figured I could earn 8%. I'm going to have inflation of 3%. I'm going to net 5%. At 5%, divided into 100%, it's 20. I got to multiply it to what I want, $100,000 a year times 20, and I need $2 million earning 8% minus 3% at 5%, give me $100,000 a year. So I now have a target. I need $2 million today to give me my financial independence today. And I thought, I don't have a way of doing that. I didn't see a way of getting $2 million all of it. At the time, I was saving $200 a month. And I didn't think that I could afford anywhere near that kind of thing. So I thought, well, I need $1 million in 2 days. I need $500,000 in 4 days. I need $250,000 in 8 days. I need, I broke it down over longer periods of time. And I eventually said, okay, I'm going to shoot a goal to get this thing done in 12 years with a 3% inflation rate. I'm going to set this goal up, or maybe 15 years. I need to get really clear on how much do I need to actually make and put away per month into savings, into investments to give me that amount. Factoring in inflation, by that time it's going to be probably, I'm going to need $4 million by then. It's going to double by then with inflation. So I set this goal up and I realized I needed $20,000 plus a month in savings. And there was no way I was saving that amount. And there was no way I was learning how to invest with that amount. I was too naive, and I had a headache and my stomach was in a knot. And I had this feeling I was destined to be financially independent, but I didn't see how I was going to pull this off. And I couldn't come up with a strategy. I didn't see any way. I didn't know how I was going to build my practice, my business this fast, put that kind of money away. I would need, at the rate I would do it, I would have to make really hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to pull off that amount per month. I just didn't see how I was doing it. I was too green in the business world. But what I decided to do, which was number 9, was the eighth one was, what is the shortfall between my current income, my current financial, current net worth, and what do I need? I need to know what that shortfall is, so I know how much I need to put away. Then I had to come up with a strategy, which was number 9. And then number 10 was an actual strategy that was efficient, which I call the force accelerated savings technique and the force accelerated investment technique. Believe it or not, this was the most significant thing I ever did in my financial life.
Me too.
I'm more than financial. I'm more than financial because of this one thing. I started out at $200 a month. I got comfortable in 90 days. I heard an idea that if once you make a habit of something in 90 days, stretch it. So I raised it to 300 in 90 days. I did that for 90 days. Three months, I paid $300. I raised it to 500. I paid that for 3 months. I raised it to 750. I paid that for 3 months. And I raised that to 1,000. So at the end of the year, I was now saving $1,000 a month, and I needed $22,000 a month to give me my goal over the period I did. So I still had a way to go, but I didn't stop. I ran a projection of where I was being at $1,000 a month. At 34 years, I'd be a millionaire. I still wouldn't reach my goal. So I had to increase it. So I decided I was going to increase it 10% every quarter. I felt comfortable raising it 10% every quarter. So I did. I made it 1,100 in 3 months, 1,210 for 3 months, 1,344 for 3 months. I kept raising it. And I had an automated savings system in place until I had 6 months worth of working capital. And then I started buying stocks. And I started buying stocks from there on out, once I had a capital reserve. And I just kept raising it. And it went to 2,000. It went to 4,000. It went to 8,000. It went to 16,000. It went to 32,000, 64,000, 128,000. It went finally up to $256,000. I just kept increasing it. 9 years later, from when I started, I was financially independent, but now I was saving $32,000 a month, and it was now growing and going up 10%. And so my lifestyle, I could now raise up because my savings is exceeding what my needs were to get financially independent. So now my financial independence is more than 20-fold from what I originally said per year. 20-fold. So now I basically get to have financial independence, and it's still growing and still consuming and going. So it was a real number with a real strategy, with real commitment, with real service, and I set it and automated it, so there's no emotion about it. And I kept going out and serving ever greater numbers of people and trying to be more efficient and more effective and serving more people, producing more products, more service, building a brand. And all of a sudden, because I was committed to this outcome, I got my outcome. And people who say they want to be financially independent without the commitment of actually structuring it and the commitment to serving people usually end up frustrated.
Yeah, I agree with you. So thank you very much for sharing that. Actually, the force accelerator system is one of the best thing. And I tell people to have a separate bank account. People have the impression you can save money in the same bank account you used to buy pizza. That's not the case. I always say get a different bank account without the debit card, without credit card, and you make, if you can, if your bank allows, a percentage of any money that comes in gets wired out to the saving account. So there is no emotion. But keep it different, please. A lot of people try to save money in the same bank account. I have saved so much money ever since I switched. It's impossible. I actually keep myself purposely poor. If you steal the bank account, you know, the card that you have the bank account for, there is like, I don't know, $1,000. So have at it. And all the other money is in another account.
Exactly. I have a tax account, a depreciation account, a education account, I call it the immortality account, which is the funds that go into all my stacked investments. I have lots of investments. And I've done that. I've never touched it. That's not allowed. It doesn't exist. It just grows and it compounds. And it compounds in ways that are astonishing. Astonishing. And what I do is I just keep putting money in there. I put it in there weekly, just like just clockwork, electronically. I don't emotionalize. It's just a bill that goes in there and it's not touched. I can't rob it. I can't do anything with it. It's gone. It doesn't exist. And I go take care of my clients. And I go serve people. And that thing is compounding now, making me more money than I am working.
Good. So let's ask a serious questions. I hope you don't mind sharing with us a few numbers about your wealth or net worth. If you don't want, it's fine. But I'm going to ask you anyway. Okay. So what's your net worth today?
I don't tell people the total, but I know that I can generate a minimum of $2 million doing nothing per year passively.
Okay, that's good. So how much is your lifestyle?
I keep a very simple lifestyle. I really have structured my life where most everything I do is a write-off. I have Demartini clothes. So everything I buy in clothes is Demartini. So it's a business expense. Everything that I do is business expense. And it's a legitimate business expense because I have businesses in each of these areas. So I constantly keep my lifestyle simple. I don't, the only thing that I own now, because I used to have a lot of real estate and rental properties and stuff. I mainly have companies today. I found that they're more efficient. But the only thing that I actually own now is my ship. And I live on a ship, otherwise I live in hotels. And my business writes off all my expenses in my hotel, my food, everything else because it's business related. So I really have very little cost. I put all of my money into investments or build it back into the business. My business has an asset, it's an additional asset. So I keep it very slim, trim thing. I don't have this fancy lifestyle. I could. I mean, my ship is a 6-star luxury, largest yacht on the planet. But my lifestyle is very simple. I eat very simple. My travels are usually business and first class, but I sometimes in private jets, but I keep a very simple lifestyle. I find that I'd rather put my money towards a cause. Money without meaning leads to debauchery. Money with meaning leads to philanthropy. I believe it's wise to have a cause that you're building your wealth for, because I'm already financially independent. So it's what's next. You always want to think, what is for your family, your community, your city, your state, your nation, your world, what's next? Because if you don't have some cause, you'll plateau and you'll buy clutter. You'll buy stuff. and stuff is depreciable. I'd like to share something that's
Sure.
quite interesting.
Please.
I was having a discussion during one of my financial programs I did the other day, and I asked people something. Most people assume I got to have a house. A house is an investment. I don't find a house as an investment.
No.
Pardon me for fudging. I think Elon Musk just got rid of his houses the other day. He thought it was a burden. They're sinkholes. Unless you buy at the very bottom, unless you're using it very productively, sometimes it's just a sinkhole. For instance, you buy a 3-car garage, you put in 3 cars that are depreciable liabilities. You pay a quarter of your house to a fifth of your house for a car and to store stuff. That's all depreciated. That's stuff that just fills up a garage. And you pay, if you buy a $2 million, $5 million house, or even $1 million house, you can be paying $200,000, $250,000 for a garage.
Yeah. Right.
Then you got landscaping, maintenance, taxes, all this stuff. And then you got to clean it and repair it and maintain it and depreciation. A rental property offsets that. But a lifestyle, most people don't even realize. Then you fill up a closet with stuff that depreciates, that's fashioned, it's sold by impulse. So I keep a very simple lifestyle. I find that I'm not interested in accumulating things and stuff that you then have to move to another location and pay more stuff. I'm a minimalist in the sense of I only buy things that are high priority things that serve my primary objectives. And I make sure that then I recycle those things and give those to people who they can take it from there. So if I buy a book, I read it, I take the information, I resell the book to my students. They want to read what I've read. And I'm constantly using my economics more functionally than just accumulating stuff. So I'm a very simple minimalist in that respect. People think that that's a little bit odd, but I don't care. I'm the financially independent guy because the purpose of financial independence is not for lifestyle, in my opinion. The purpose of financial independence is to go and do something you absolutely love, not because you have to, but because you love to.
Yeah.
Something that means something to you, that inspires you, that wants to make a difference in people's lives. To me, that's what the purpose of it is. Stuff is just transient stuff. I've had penthouses, I've had Rolls Royces, and I've had all that stuff, and it just doesn't do anything to me.
Yeah.
My wife wanted that stuff. I don't need all that stuff. I want to know that right now, what we're doing right now is what means something to me. Sharing information that could transform a person's life so they can fulfill their life. Because most people, there are people right now foreclosing their homes, selling their homes because they really didn't have anything but debt.
Yeah.
And the banking system is fractional reserve, which depreciates, a credit card that's just ridiculously priced, a mortgage, a house, car thing, living in a suburb, and you stop and look at how that whole thing is set up. It was set up for banking systems, not setting up for an individual to be financially independent. The educational system is designed for drones they were basically slaves to debt. I have no interest in that lifestyle. I'm interested in doing something that serves people and having my money working for me so I can do more of what serves people.
So you guys can hear John Demartini giving the reply to the question I get asked, which is, Big Luca, why haven't you got a Lamborghini yet? And I'm like, you don't get it. I'm playing a different game. So right now, for example, I actually only started a year ago with the stock market because I quickly realized I earn millions of dollars. But the thing is, you won't save your way to wealth. And I realized that, and I was like, crap. Okay, you make a couple of $1 million per year net, which is a great income. However, you got cost. I like traveling first class. I do enjoy and indulge in private jets. And unfortunately, it's something that when you try it, you go, yes, I gotta have it. And so right now I am increasing my investments, and I'm now putting $40,000 a month towards the stock market. It's actually $20,000 immediately and $20,000 in a stock market bank account when the market dips. And I'm gonna ask you a question about that, by the way. But I see people around me, especially in the online marketing space. I'm kind of the strange guy because I keep telling people to have a conservative lifestyle and to I rent, for example. This is a 4,000 square feet house And I rent, I don't buy. People say, well, you got the money, why don't you buy $1 million house? And I'm like, $1 million? And I said, I don't have $1 million. I do have that, but I cannot afford to spend it in my house. So please. And I do enjoy having a fairly high lifestyle. So I, at least, you know, I gotta have $250,000 a year passively, which I gotta accumulate 10 million. I mean, 10 million look a lot, but they're not. What do you think about that?
Well, I tell people, instead of raising your lifestyle, the way you know you're ready to raise your lifestyle, you raise your investments and your taxes equal amounts. So if you want to raise your lifestyle $1,000, put an extra $1,000 into investments and an extra $1,000 into taxes, you've earned it. No problem. I have nothing against lifestyle as long as you're not eroding your freedom of money working for you. But people, what they do is they live the great lifestyle, have no savings, and then when all of a sudden their business, like the corona comes, there's no cash flow.
Yeah.
Now they have to sell their lifestyle. And the house, by renting it and investing the difference, you come out ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can move around and go to the next one when it starts to depreciate.
Yeah, and you're mobile as well. You know, you're mobile. You're not stuck, because especially I've been traveling a lot and I live in different places. So 2 questions I want to ask you. My students and my community is interested in how much money should you have saved up in a bank account which is liquid, not invested, and then how much money you should invest. Because what I do is that I keep a lot of money in my savings account for my security. And a lot of people, you know, it's years of lifestyle, but that makes me feel secure. And a lot of people tell me, well, you should kind of decrease the amount that you have not invested and put that to work. So how do you go about saying, this is my money saved, I don't touch it? How many months or how many years do you keep, or do you advise people to keep? And then do you advise people to invest everything else, or to increase savings, maybe less, and then invest? How do you go about that? What percentages can you share with us?
The Fortune 100 companies have between 40 and 100% of a year's income in cash reserve. Warren Buffett had over 100 billion in cash reserves. So the wealthiest people I've seen and I've interacted with have cash reserves. Bill Gates and them keep a year's worth of cash reserves. Now, I've been buying in the market for 38 years, and I have watched 4 major dips, corrections. Whenever I see, I take what is called by Charles Ellis in his winning the losers game. I take a mean of those markets based on Ibbotson charts and other charts. The London School of Economics gives me data on this, and I got really good charts. Whenever it is more than 10% above the mean, I start increasing ratios of cash. Whenever it's at the mean or below the mean, I'm high ratios of investing in dollar cost averaging on a weekly basis.
Weekly, okay.
Yeah, do it. Well, I got too big for monthly. $250,000 a month is too volatile, so I just started doing it by the week. It's a lot easier.
Okay.
So the process of doing that, I just keep it. And when I see way above the mean, like in 2000, it was 36% above the mean, I accumulated cash, and I wait for the crash. When I see the margin accounts extremely high and everybody's leveraging other people's monies to buy into a thing based on a gamble, and I see a irrational exuberance, I'm in buying cash. I'm kind of a contrarian in that respect. And I'm building up cash and building up cash. I built up a lot of cash over the last 3 years, knowing not that Corona was going to hit, but knowing that there would be a correction. And I grabbed it, and I grabbed it almost to the day. And so there's been a great opportunity out of Corona, make a lot of money out of it. But I buy those big crashes about every 7 to 10 years, on average, 11 years this time. So I wait for those cycles. Those are credit cycles. I take advantage of the credits. But in the meantime, my dollar cost average, and I just keep buying assets. I keep buying companies that serve greater number of people. To me, an asset, toilet paper is something that every human being does and uses. And every number, as the numbers of population grows, so will toilet paper. Toothpaste, all the things that are essentials for human beings. Shavers, anything that allows a human being to function on a daily basis that is going up in value and going up in numbers, I put my money into. Something that serves people, that's not a question, it's not a wonder, that is actually something I know is going to serve people and continue to serve people, I put money into. Because it's about serving with fair exchange in an equitable manner that builds wealth, in my opinion. Gambling on the markets and trading on the markets is not my thing. I don't gamble that way. I just keep buying assets in companies that are known to serve people consistently longer than my life. Now, I bought a peanut butter company. Before I was born, it was around. When I die, it will still be around, and people are still eating peanut butter. So I buy companies that I know are serving people, that people on a daily basis are using, and stick to the basics. And don't try to, occasionally I might come across some companies that are odd. They're they're going to do well. But I'm mainly a buyer of people that buy companies that are consistently, low turnover rate, high yielding companies consistently.
Okay.
And I buy those, and I cluster those, and I buy those, and I don't try to buy and sell all the time. I just keep buying.
Yeah, just keep buying. So buy and hold. And do you buy ETFs or do you buy single stocks?
I buy usually indices because they have the lowest turnover rate, or individual stocks that I feel are solid.
Okay.
I don't do ETFs because the price erosion of the fees of actively trading the fund eroded returns, and I've proven that over the last 30 years. So I don't waste my time on brokers.
Right. I thought the problem with fees was just about mutual funds.
Well, ETFs are hybrids between passive and mutual funds, but you're still paying a higher fee. I'm paying 0.2 to 0.32% for all my money managed, instead of 1% and higher that most of these things are charging. So I don't give away, because let's say it's averaging 8%. If you give 1%, you just gave away 16% of that. You gave away 12% of that money right there. So I don't give away the money to people that think they can outdo it with my money, because what they do is they have short-term capital gains. There's other fees that they charge, and I keep the fees down to the minimum. I keep the money going into assets to the maximum, and I just hold them.
Okay, so
I'm not telling that everybody has to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just telling what I do.
Sure.
And I've been very fortunate because of it.
Absolutely. So why would you say that it's 8% if the average S&P 500 or Nasdaq is above that?
If you take a long-term history, and let's say when you take the inflation rate and everything, I just go by a conservative number.
Right.
Believe it or not, I ran my inflation, when I talk about a couple $1 million, I base that on 4%.
Right.
Well, I run my projections at 4%. So that'll give you an idea what that means.
Okay.
So if I get $2 million a year and I'm doing it on 4%, that gives you an idea where that money is. So yeah, I may get 12%. I may get more because I'm now buying in crashes. I may get 12%, but I run my projections on 4%. I'd rather run the projection on a conservative number and beat that, and every year be inspired by the growth, than I would hype it up and then go, oops, and have emotions. And I learned that a long time ago, 30-something years ago, 36 years ago, 37 years ago. Whenever my accountant would estimate my taxes, I always added 2% more to make sure that I was ahead, never behind. Because I didn't mind him saying, well, I overestimated and you don't have to pay as much. But I didn't mind when he said, well, I underestimated, you got to pay more. Yeah. So I basically underestimate all my projections. And then I always feel great. I'm setting myself up for expectations that are moderate and exceeding those expectations yearly. I find that that's much more psychologically sound than the other way around.
Right.
I don't like to get impulsive and get exuberant and get elated. I learned from a great master economic guy, if you're excited, you probably screwed it up. If you're bored, you'll be on track. I find that that's true.
And it is boring, by the way, because it's just slow and steady. There's no excitement. I mean, it's automatic. I just invest every month, and there is no action, really, I mean, in the short term.
The guys I know that are excited usually go high and low and end up in manic depressive cycles. I am not interested in that. I'm interested in focusing and not distracting myself. I'm interested in living by strategy, not motions. I'm interested in living in objectives, not fantasies. And I'm interested in serving people, not just living the fancy lifestyle and showing off a lifestyle. I have a great lifestyle. Believe it or not, I have a decent lifestyle. But what's interesting is people say, why would you live in hotels? I learned from Chanel and many others, Duke of Windsor, they lived in hotels because most of it's all business right up. When you buy a house, you got to pay your taxes on top of it. And now you live in a hotel, you don't have any taxes. It's all business expense. So I just do some consulting and do some webinars and things like it's all business expense. So I basically write off everything, keep it simple, go to very lovely locations and stay in nice locations, and have people take care of things. I push a button and they take care of my laundry, cleaning, cooking, food, and everything else. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm not interested in doing domestic duties that I can pay somebody to do that for. I'm interested in serving people. Yeah. That's just my lifestyle. Not everybody wants that. Some people want the fancy house, the fancy cars. I got a lady right now that's worth about $200 million. She's got a car, the Rolls Royce, everything else. That's an averaging about $1,000 to $2,000 a month in maintenance. Then she's got a house that's around $300,000 to $400,000 in maintenance a year, plus her taxes. I'm going, why would I want to put money into that? Yeah. To me, it doesn't mean anything to me. I'd rather go and put educational products together and go and educate entrepreneurs and help them grow at their overall lifestyle. I'd rather go and do something that's informative that people invest in a Nobel Prize or something. Personally, that's way more meaningful to me than just giving it to taxation and they're squandering it away on instant gratifications and rescuing people that don't want to work. No, I'm not doing that. I like the approach I have. You don't have to follow what I do. It doesn't matter to me. This is what I do, and I've been blessed by it. I'm very grateful and I have a simple life, and I have the luxury that I want.
Well, you have a very similar lifestyle to mine, actually. I have it now full-time maid. I used to live in a 5-star hotel, actually 3 of them. I went from a 5-star hotel in Dubai, 2-bedroom apartment, to a 2-floor penthouse in a 5-star with actually a private pool on my balcony. I gave that up because it was $9,000 a month, which is not much when you compare it to Manhattan. But then I was traveling back and forth from to the States, and I was like, I'm spending a lot of money in the States, and I have this home back in Dubai, which is costing me $9,000. So then I switched to a 1-bedroom apartment to a very luxurious hotel, and now I have a wife, so we got this beautiful rented villa with a full-time maid. And actually in Dubai there is 0 taxes, which, by the way, why don't you move to Dubai? There is no taxes, no audit for companies. Just come over here and break free.
There's a cost in Dubai, as you've probably figured out. So there's a little other things there that cost you. That's like the offset of taxes. I don't mind where I'm doing it. The money that goes into my assets, once it's in my asset, I have no taxes other than the little dividends that come in, but I replenish them and back in there, reinvest them. I don't have taxes on all the money I get off my investments unless I use them, and then I got 20%. So I don't have a major taxation. But right. Dubai would be fine. I looked into Dubai a number of years ago, but I saw that other costs were not, compared to what I have right now structured versus the cost there, it was almost the difference was the same as the taxes.
Wow. Whoa.
So no, unless you're, because the prices there were being escalated when I was there back in 2007 and 8 and 6.
Oh, it's completely different now. I mean, it's not that expensive. Actually, no, I have this villa, and it's costing me $4,400 a month, which is 5,000 square feet, garden, 4,000 square feet. It is furnished by a Russian architect or whatever, and full-time maid is $1,000 a month. Gardener is $400 a month. Actually, with 12 grand a month, we calculate that me and my wife can eat. It's like a restaurant because the maid buys stuff for us. If we stay put, which we don't because we go to restaurants, and restaurants are very expensive, alcohol, but you don't drink alcohol, you just drink water. I know that of you. So it's not even true. I mean, compared to Manhattan, for example, or I went to Miami, the lifestyle there is crazy, or Vegas even. So, if you come and visit here in Dubai, I'll show you around, and I can,
Well, I'll check out Dubai again. I was doing another podcast in Dubai earlier this week, so I'll check out Dubai and see what is going on. But my is the best address on earth, and it comes to Dubai too.
Yeah, you live on the world. Why do you live on this ship?
That's the best. Because that goes from the Antarctic to the Arctic and goes It's the best. So when I'm not there, I rent it out. So I offset my cost when I'm there versus the hotel. So I haven't found a better hotel, better lifestyle than that one.
Right. So you depart from whatever airport you're at with your ship, basically. If you are in Finland, you depart.
I'll go from there, or come into a place like Dubai or whatever, and then I'll fly to wherever I'm going to speak, and I'll come back, kind of thing.
And maybe
right now it's not because of the corona, but that's just temporary.
Oh yeah, right. So when you go back to your ship, it's not the back where you departed from, because the ship has moved, maybe, right?
It's new. It's fun. It's constantly moving.
That's cool.
So that way I can go to bed in Hamburg, Germany, and wake up in Amsterdam. Then go to bed there and wake up in another city, or go out to be at sea at someplace. To me, I've said since I was in my 20s, the universe is my playground, the world is my home, every country's a room in the house, every city's a platform to share my heart and soul. I love traveling, and so that's why, and the world is home, so that makes sense to me. That's just that. Being in one place doesn't make sense, other than this corona time. Being in one place doesn't make sense. So I like to move around.
That's so cool. And how old are you?
I'm going on 66.
And you're pretty energetic for, the common kind of 65 years old guy. You're pretty driven.
No, I got more energy than most 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Most people can keep up with me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to keep up with you. Absolutely. What time do you wake up in the morning? How many hours do you sleep per night?
For 35 years, I did 4. Now it's more going close to 5 to 6.
4?
4 hours. I developed that habit when I was 18, and I lived that until around 60. And then I started having to pee in the middle of the night, so I had to get up a bit, and that was disturbing some sleep, so I stretched that an extra hour or so.
Yeah. Well, I sleep like 9 hours. I should get my eating in place and my pattern. For example, I go to sleep at like 6, 7 a.m. and I wake up at like 3 to 4 p.m. The problem is that I have tried to discipline myself to not do it because it's not the stereotypical morning ritual, routine that successful people have. But then if I have to catch a flight, of course, I'll wake up at 5 a.m., whatever. But then as soon as I don't think about it, I'll just default back to my normal routine, which is basically the opposite of other people. What do you think about it? Do you think it's important to wake up early in the morning as a standard, as a productivity kind of habit?
I think it's individualistic. We do have in our hypothalamus the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is a circadian rhythm monitor of all the biological clocks in our body, and there is wisdom biologically to have some sort of circadian rhythm cycle. But for my own life, because I travel so much, I'm moving from time zone to time zone. I never really set a time zone. Being in this location is the longest I've been in one location for a period of time, so I'll have to readjust again. But I don't normally have a time zone, so my biological rhythms are probably all kind of crazy. But I'm doing pretty good. I'm 65 and still cranking. So I don't think there's a set rule on that you have to do it this way or have to do it. I know some people that are early morning people, some people are late people. I'm just working with a client last night. They're up until 6 in the morning, and they get up at around noon to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then they go until 6 in the morning again. And they do that, and they're celebrities, and they're very famous, and they're very successful at what they do. I got other people that are up at 3 in the morning. I used to get up at 2 in the morning, go to bed at 10 every night. 10 to 2, 10 to 2, 10 to 2. That's when I slept. So there's no rule on that. You got to be truthful to yourself and look at how your performance is. If it's working, it's working. There's all kind of people who will tell you what you need, but you got to go based on what your own biology allows.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, and relieving as well. I felt guilt. No, I didn't feel guilt. I know that I have to go by results, and if the results are showing up, that means that I'm doing something right. That's kind of my argument.
One of my mentors used to be up till 2 or 3 in the morning every morning, and then would go to bed and we'd back up at about 8, 9 every morning, and so that was his routine. But I've seen everybody's got a different routine. Donald Trump used to do 4 hours a day. That's all he slept. He still does. So he's a high intense guy too.
Wow.
So it depends on it. Harvey McKay was a 4-hour guy. There's many people that did 4 hours.
So,
What you used to.
yeah, one question I have for you, and let's switch back to values and let's call it personal development because I teach marketing strategies but I branch out to mindset quite often, and so people follow me for that as well. And what I find is that I always tell people to don't hang out with losers and isolate yourself. It will be a lonely journey most of the time. And when you choose to change your life, the group you're hanging out with, won't understand it. And for example, if your partner is not on board, that's going to be a challenge. So a lot of people tell me, even today, I want to change my life, enough with being broke, enough with tolerate situations I don't want to tolerate. But my wife keeps telling me everything is a scam, all the books are scams, all the programs are scams, so these people are brainwashing you, who do you think you are? We're just normal, let's live broke, YOLO, which doesn't work, by the way. What do you say to these people? So if their partner is not on board and they decide to change their life and take ownership of their life, what can you say?
Well, every human being, because they have a set of priorities and a set of values that they live their life by, whenever you communicate what you believe is valuable in terms of what they believe is valuable, they're more receptive to adapting and taking on board things you want to share. It's like in any sales. If you communicate people's values, they're receptive. So if you have a partner that has a belief system that has different than yourself, and you're not masterful at communicating the value to them of alternatives, or you think that would be to your advantage, then you have to ask yourself, do I want to live my life this way? You may have to just say, I'm moving on. Life goes on. I don't put a rule about how it's supposed to look. I don't put a rule about is a failure or success in relationships or whatever. It's a learning experience. But if you can, if you have people that are basically around you that want to be, they want to keep you where they are, I have no problem being around them. I just sell them products. I'm helping them expand. So I have people that say, well, you're expensive and you're greedy, Dr. Demartini. And I said, that means you have a low value for money. And so I have a book that I would recommend. And I just sell them the book. And if somebody says, well, you're cheap and you're inexpensive, that means you have a high value of money. So I'll sell them a larger seminar. I'll do something that will be of value to them at whatever their market needs are. But I'm not necessarily here to judge the people. Everybody's needed in this game. You got to have people at all levels. You got to have the CEO, you got to have the worker. But what I do is I will meet them at their needs and try to fill their needs at different levels with a primary target at the people I want to go and associate with. And then I'll spend most of my prioritized time with people that are doing things. And if I'm with people that are not quite in that level, I'll usually have larger audiences and let them show up there. They may not be the people I actually go to dinner with and hang out with, but they'll be people that will show up at the seminar. So I place for everybody, but I'll make sure that I'm making a contribution to as much as possible on everybody I work with.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of my students, they try to remain the same and achieve different goals. And I'm like, that's not going to work, Hang out with the same people, smoking weed.
If you're not changing your values, if you're not changing your values and you're not changing your perceptions, decisions, and actions, you're going to be the same. And if you want to build wealth, for instance, you have to have a value on serving people. You have to have a value on saving and investing in. There's a real value there. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Your hierarchy of values dictates your financial investment. So there has to be a shift in there to get a change in action. If you're going to continue to do the same thing expecting different results, that's not going to happen. But you have to be true to yourself, too. And some people do not have the values that will build wealth. They have the values that will raise a family, or the values to, join their church or join their synagogue or their mosque, or whatever, and dissociate and think that some outside thing is going to take care of them. And they're not at the level where they are self-actualizing enough to know that it's nothing to do with outside there. It's what they decide to do. People that live by design are not people that live by default. And I'm not going to prioritize. If you're not interested in living by design, then go buy a book. If you're interested in it, come to the seminar. If you're really interested in it, let me mentor you. There's something for everybody out there. But I'm not going to make them wrong for wherever they are. That's like saying that people in kindergarten class that believe that atoms are little balls and plastic things are not valuable in the world. They are. But the people at the higher levels of abstraction know that they're mathematical entities, not little balls. So you got to teach them the illusion till they're ready for truth. But I wouldn't want to condemn somebody just because they're not at that level, because I lived on the streets. I was a street kid as a teenager. You know, I panhandled on the streets, and so I can't complain about that. If I see something like that, I try to inspire them and show them that there's alternatives if they want it. If they don't want it, that's fine. It's their life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, everybody's valuable, but like, you know, if you want to build wealth, as you said, and you hang out with people that they just want to waste money YOLO, it's not going to work, because nobody can really resist, in my experience at least, social pressure. It will get to you. It's impossible. If you're in a toxic environment, at least for your values and your goals, you got to get out of there. As you said, quit, just move on. It's impossible otherwise. You know, it's excruciating.
Well, I was, my wife, Athena, when I first bought her, she loved buying clothes. And it was right in the 90s when the stock market and the tech stocks were going nuts. And I said, you know, if you work and you buy those clothes, if you're saving 5%, that means you got to multiply the cost of that times 20. That's how much work you have to do in order to have that little immediate gratifying thing sitting in that closet. And I said, and the money that you could, by putting in investments over the next 20 to 30 years of your life, will be this. And I used to tell her, this is the actual cost of that clothes. And I said, so then we found the gallery of wearable art. You could rent amazing clothes for really cheap for one night. Because instead of sitting in your closet, it sits in others, and we can use the closet more effectively. And we started buying investments, and she started buying investments, and we kept records of it. And I said, well, now your investments bought you a gallery of wearable art. You're now able to have the most outrageous clothes on the planet. That is from the Queen, from the 18th century to this, to Michael Jackson's outfit, to whatever you want, now from a passive income. Once I got her on it, she started investing and never turned back. So it's about communicating, because it's easy to say, well, you know, your values are wrong. I don't find that productive. I found that it's wise to say, with your values, what are the challenges you face? And have you considered this? And these are the things you could do to be able to have that lifestyle you want passively. Would you like it passively, or would you like to have to work for it? And then I just talk to them and I communicate with them, and all of a sudden then they think things differently. And I'd rather elevate somebody to a new way of thinking by asking questions than judging them and then walking away, because I might change their life, and that's deeply meaningful.
Yeah, I did the same exercise with my wife the other day. I was like, I took out a compound interest calculator, and I was like, well, you see, when I say we are not buying the yacht yet, we are not getting the Lambo yet, because she wants a Lambo. We are not doing that yet. It's because I am building this that will provide that forever, right? So we won't have any problem. I mean, the target is not to have a couple of $1 million or 3 or 4, whatever. It's to have like 10, 20, 30 that you can live off of for the rest of your life. Otherwise, you gotta work every day, maybe doing something you don't like. I actually believe in the short term, you gotta earn money. And you will not do your life mission at first because maybe you don't have the money to do it. As you said, I mean, financial freedom is about go do whatever is actually important to you.
But I teach people how to do their life mission and make money at it. I'm a firm believer that if you're not doing something you really love to do, you're not going to be fully into it. So I'm a firm believer in taking whatever you're doing that it takes to earn the income and link it to what is valuable so it's inspiring. Either go do what you love through delegating or love what you do through linking, I tell people. Because if you do that, then you're inspired to go to work. I love what I'm doing. I get handsomely paid to do it. And if I want my lifestyle to go up, if this next year I can add another $80,000 to my lifestyle and income without any question. And the year later it'll be 84 or 88,000. So my lifestyle can grow every single year now. So not that I need it. I'm not going to spend that. I rarely ever do that. I just let it accumulate, go do it for my causes. But at the same time, the option to have that option allows me to make wise decisions. And then what happens when there's crashes in the market, you can buy cheap. When there's opportunities, you can grab opportunities and not pay ridiculous fees for it. I was over at this condo. Somebody called me up and said, I want to show you this new condo. I said, I'm interested in a condo right now. It'd be foolish to buy it right now. It's going down in price. So anyway, they go over there. And I found the actual numbers and said, this is the price as it was 18 months ago. Now it's down 20%, and it's headed down another 20%. I said, why would I buy that? That'd be the foolish thing to buy. And she goes, oh. So I said, sure, I understand. I said, I'm not going to buy that. I buy assets. This is not an asset. This is a thing that I'm going to be paying taxes on and more corporate taxes and corporate management and maintenance and everything else. This is not what I'm going to be buying. And she goes, oh. I said, you need to go get somebody that wants to flash something and show off something. I've passed through that stages in my 30s, 40s. I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, real estate is going down from now, I believe. I mean, it'll go down. In Dubai, it's already, we thought it was the bottom. Of course, nobody can tell where the bottom is. And now it's going down again. And the question, another question for you, because I want to extract as much value from you as I can. Do you prefer real estate or stock market?
At the London School of Economics, there's a report by 3 individuals, Credit Suisse report, that has taken every market around the world and monitored it for 120 years, depending on how long the market's been. Some have been less years, obviously, but they've been monitoring it, every market around the world, and comparing it. And the returns, after all costs, all maintenance, all depreciations, everything, taxes, everything, and comparing across the market. And believe it or not, the small cap indices beats them all. That's what it's been. That's the one it shows. So I'm a firm believer in buying companies that serve people. But some people really love the property development. And people that do property development can make more than the stock if they're developing. Buying and getting rental properties will not beat that small cap. But buying real estate and developing it, and developing land and developing properties and building cities and building these things, these are the ones that have made massive fortunes and raised the value of the property and the rentals and everything going on. Maha Sinathambi, who's a guy that I toured with throughout Australia, built a city called Springfield, just inland from Brisbane. And I spent many hours with him, and he is a visionary. He's literally built a city that's got, I think, 50,000 or something people. It's soon to be 100,000 people in 25 years, from scratch, from raw land. And he's one of the wealthiest guys in the country because of that. Because he's basically building a cause that's building life for people. And so people that do that make fortunes. But otherwise, I want to focus on teaching and educating, and I buy companies. So I'm a company buyer more so than a property buyer. But there are people that have made fortunes in properties, but they need to do it strategically. They can't just buy and flip and do those kind of things. They got to really think out strategy, where they're buying, where the property's going, and create a compounding effect from the property appreciation, the upgrades in the society, and get involved in the taxes. There's a guy called Randall Davis here in Houston that's done that. He's done extremely well because of that. So I would mentor under somebody that's got property development if I was going to go the property route. I bought a bunch of properties at different places, and I've put them into rental properties and scattered it out, had to learn that that's not the most efficient way, and it did not beat the overall return that I was getting in the markets. So I got mine mainly in the market. I've sold everything else as property. I've got it all in the market, in the varieties of markets I have, and I have my property on the ship now. I've simplified my life.
Right, thank you for this. I can stay here all night. I don't know how busy you are tonight. I believe you have other things. I don't know. How much time do you have left?
I've got a bit of time, a little bit of time still.
Okay, question for you. Marriage. Okay, joint account or not?
I recommend that you have your account. She has her account. You have a joint account on only those things you both absolutely agree on that you both want. Because she's going to have a different set of values. He's going to have a different set of values. Where there's overlap that you both want, then you need to have those earmarked based on what's contributed to it. So it's clear. And then you need to basically divide up the responsibilities of where that money goes if you're both earners on what they're going to pay, and make sure it's a fair exchange. Because anytime there's not a fair exchange in a relationship, it eventually festers, and eventually surfaces, and eventually causes problems. So you need to make sure you're clear about what is expected and what you're getting. And some of it's not just in money. Sometimes some men will pay for beauty, some men for comfort, some men will pay for this, some women will pay for nobility and ambition. So you got to look at the overall package of the individual. What is the overall? When women are looking for men, they're looking for somebody that's nice looking and healthy, that's fit. They're looking for somebody that's intelligent, somebody ambitious, somebody that's got resources, somebody that wants to be with them and have family with them, or maybe not, but at least they want to be with a girl. They're looking for somebody that's got social savvy, somebody that's inspired. They want the best package they can get. So whatever you have in those 7 areas, those are all assets under genuine wealth category. Your financial assets is a way of measuring the financial, but the other ones are also there. So if I see somebody that's incredibly talented socially, that helps me in business and supports that, and is very beautiful, I will not have to say, well, you got to pay half of all the bills. I'll pay for those assets, and you're bringing to the table those assets. She may want to pay for certain things, I'll pay for others. This all has to be negotiated, so there's a fair exchange in both their people's minds, and it has to be renegotiated and updated periodically to make sure, because sometimes people drop on certain things and then they're no longer providing an asset, and it's causing a lack of fair exchange in the relationship. So you need to measure that. Alfred Marshall, in his Principles of Economics, said that every muscle that's moved can be measured economically. Say you don't smoke. I'm assuming you don't smoke.
I do.
Say you don't smoke. But if I pay, oh, you do smoke. Okay, you do smoke. So let's say you smoke, and I said, I'm going to pay you $1,000 not to smoke today. You'd probably say, nah, I'd like to smoke my cigarette. If I paid you $10,000 today not to smoke, you'd probably go, okay, maybe. I paid you $100,000, you wouldn't smoke for the day. I can find out exactly what that smoke is worth. I can also take a person that doesn't smoke, and I can stack up amount and find out what it would be for him to smoke. Now, if I give him $100,000 to smoke a cigarette a day, he'd probably do it. If I give him $1 million, he'd smoke a cigarette. I give you $10 million to smoke a pack of cigarettes, he'd go, hell yeah. If he has a value on that, on the money. So the same thing for sex. We all have a price on sex.
Oh yeah.
People say, well, no, I won't do it. But I've asked women, I said, if I gave you $1 billion, would you make love with that guy? And they go, for $1 billion? Yeah. And some will say no. And they go, okay, you just passed up $1 billion because I got a guy that would give you $1 billion to see that. And they go, well, no. And the other girl will go, I'll go and do it. The guy will say, I'll dress up and dress in a dress to go do it. So everybody has a way of measuring what their motives are. And money is a way of measuring motive. That's what Alfred Marshall was trying to say in his economics. So wealth is a universal value system. It's one of the more universal value systems, and you can measure things. And in Christianity, they used to have indulgences. To get into heaven, you paid to do it. For health, you get a better health if you have finances. So it's a very universal thing. To not build wealth in your life, to me, is insane. It just is, because your overall, the word wealth comes from wheel, which means health. So wealth and health are really synonymous. And you have a higher probability of having a wealth and health status. In the lower economics, you find out in some townships in South Africa, they only live in 48 years. That's their average lifespan. They're impoverished. In the wealthier area, it's 83, 84. So to me, it's wise to master the use of money and have it work for you. Not as a slave, but as its master. You become its master, it works for you. It raises the empowerment of every area of your life. It can help you with the standards of your lifestyle. It can help you with the type of clients you do with business. It can help you with your health standards. It can help you with the people, social networks that you get into. It helps you with being inspired because you're doing what you love, not having to do the work. Overall, it's a very useful tool that I think is insane not to master.
I totally agree with you. In Italy, there is this stigma. In the US, it's a bit different. But in Italy, like, people look at you and they really condemn wealth. It is said that Italians like money but hate rich people. You have this thing going on in their mind and they resent you. Even in Italy, you have people, saying, I could buy a Lamborghini, I could buy that, but, people watch me and you never know. And the taxman is after you automatically, by the way. How did you get there? Because the assumption is that you're doing something wrong. That's the Italian mindset. Even I get hate online a lot. More than I would get in the US, because people say, this rich kid living in Dubai. Why is he in Dubai? There is no extradition in Dubai. What is he doing? And I'm like, guys, come on. And I'm 28, so people don't like it. So there is that.
Well, there are some people that haven't learned about wealth. They've got a misunderstanding about it. I'd like to share something about it. That
Sure.
I did a presentation on spirituality and wealth, and it shocked some people. Because if you exaggerate yourself with pride, you're not yourself. You puff yourself up, you inflate yourself. You're not being yourself, you're being expanded, you're inflated. If you minimize yourself and deflate yourself with shame, you're not yourself. It's only when you're actually in a state of real you that's authentic. And in that state, you're objective, not subjectively biased. When you exaggerate yourself, you tend to go narcissistic and try to get something for nothing and talk down to people, and you undermine your business development because you're not listening to customers or your employees. When you minimize yourself, you tend to sacrifice your profits to get clients. So either of those sides undermine growth and development, because the only thing that grows and develops is equanimity within yourself and equity between you and the customer and the employee. Equity theory has proven this. So in that state of equity is when you're most inspired, you're most in sustainable fair exchange, you're most clear conscious, less noise in the brain, less judging, you're most grateful, and you have the most love in your heart. So to me, the mastery of spirituality and the mastery of materiality are one and the same identical thing. There's no separation there. But sometimes religions have imposed the idea of an opium of the masses, of a fantasy that impoverished is going to get you into a better space, and rich is not so great, can't get to the eye of the needle. These kind of thinkings, even though they have the largest land mass and the largest wealth on the planet, even though behind the scenes they tell people impoverished is okay, it's good, it's going to get you to spirituality, those false teaching to keep people disempowered have got a whole culture believing like that, and as a result of it, they've got an internal conflict and they're conforming to something that's an ideology that's not rational. So I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in waking yourself up and educating yourself about how life works, and know that the only thing that's sustainable is fair exchange. If it was more blessed to give than to receive, then when you give, you're blessed, but the person who's receiving who can't give in fair exchange is cursed. So those are false teachings. Sustainable fair exchange is the only thing that lasts. So I want to put my money into non-zero-sum games, not trades, not derivatives, but consistently buying something that actually serves people. They win, I win. They buy the thing, I give them something, it's an exchange, it's fair, and we keep wanting to do more business. And I'm a firm believer in that equitable fair exchange is the greatest wealth builder, life builder, psychological, spiritual builder.
So about that fair exchange, how would you set, and this is very helpful for my audience, for example, you do private consultation, right? So how much money do you charge? Why do you charge that amount of money? And why is that fair?
Well, it's supply and demand. If there's no demand, it's obviously you're not presenting it in a way that's meeting people's needs and values. If it doesn't meet their needs, it doesn't meet their needs. If it meets their needs, it meets their needs. And if there's a demand, then you raise your fee because it's taking up your time and you have things you have priorities in your life. So I charge usually $3,000 to $5,000 an hour for my sessions. It depends on what I'm doing and what area of expertise. Sometimes it's a health issue, sometimes it's a business issue, a health financial issue. It depends on where it is in the human behavior. I have a case tonight of a health area. I had yesterday, I had a case, a health area. But I may be actually doing business consulting or a corporate. I have a friend who charges $75,000 an hour. And he's a specialist at locating where oils are to drill, the oil wells. And in 2 hours, for $150,000, they will save them millions of dollars in oil drilling. So they pay him $75,000 an hour for a 2-hour session to do the analysis of all the data from the geology to know where to drill, and that's his specialty. And he'll make $150,000 in 2 hours.
Wow.
He came into my ship. I was consulting. I am at my program. I was doing the leadership and lifestyle program on my ship, and he was paying me $3,000 an hour to come and be on that program. And then somebody there was in the oil business and said, "I need to hire you." And so he paid me to be there for 8 hours, $25,000 or whatever, you know. And what's interesting is then he ended up making, from one client being there, 3 times the amount of the time. So he sat there and made $50,000 net profit being with me for a day.
Wow.
So he had a very good specialty that was very useful in the oil industry, and it happened to be somebody that had a lot of oil wells, and he needed some help. Another guy had real estate, and if he's got knowledge about real estate taxes, people will pay large sums of money for real estate advice, because the tax advice could be, it could save them millions of dollars, and they'll pay hundreds of thousands for an hour if it'll save them millions. So it all depends on what you're actually getting for your dollar and what the supply and demand is.
People try to charge for things that other people don't want. That's a delusion there is now in the Italian market, because I taught everybody how to increase their prices, how to do high fee consultation, but now people are trying to put a price on consulting sessions which have no value, and a lot of people are pretending to be experts. I believe if you're fake, you cannot keep on charging people a lot. What's your view about that? Yeah, it's unsustainable.
The only thing that's sustainable is fair exchange. You'll destroy your brand if you overcharge for something that doesn't deliver. So that's foolish. I'd rather be a little on the less side and over deliver. I'm a firm believer in give people more than what they expect. My dad taught me that when I was a child. Give them more than what they expect. You want to worry about business. And I've been doing that. And I believe that I give value for my time. I don't think if not, I would give them a little bit more extra time because I want to make sure that they get value. So if I do a consult and I don't feel like I've delivered what I would like to do for my own consciousness, I'll make sure I'll stay there until I get the delivery of some product. And then when they get a value and I get a value, we both have a fair exchange. I've completed it. I had a lady one time who came to me, and she paid me $30,000 for the day. And she basically said, I'd like to shift my values, and I want to put $100 million into this project, and I need some strategies to do that. Within 4 hours, we had it figured out. And she said, I got it. I got what I came for. I said, well, you still have 4 hours on the available to you if you want to stay with it. No. I said, okay. You can have a credit as far as I'm concerned, if you'd like. It's just what I got right here is going to make me that $100 million. There's no doubt in my mind. Thank you. That was the best money I spent. As far as I'm concerned, she still has a credit.
Right.
Because I feel that I'm glad that she was able to do it, but I felt that's what my fee was. That was what it is. She's got the time on there. She hasn't taken it, but she's got it.
Wow.
I had a guy did a consult, and a guy in Toronto is going through a divorce. And there's going to be a large sum of money that was about to be lost in his relationship because he was getting ready to go off with a younger girl. He was infatuated with the younger girl, resentful to his wife. He was frustrated about the whole thing and knew he was about to go into a hornet's nest with legal issues. And I basically neutralized the infatuation with the girl, dissolved the resentment with his wife, salvaged his marriage. He calculated he saved him $24 million in legal wealth. He still had her money, but because he earned it, he thought it was his money. Half of it's hers. But he was about to give up $24 million and then go off with a younger girl that would not have worked, and then divide it in half again.
Right.
So I told him, I said, you got your penis running your life instead of your brain. Okay, he says, let's get your brain in there. So I neutralized the resentment, found out the blessings of his wife, neutralized the fantasy of the girl, cleared that out, and at the end of it, this whole thing took 4 hours. 4 hours. And it was $12,000. That was all I was charging him at the time. He said, you saved me $24 million today in aggravation and legal fees and net worth in my own psychology. He said, I feel I had a fair exchange for $12,000. I said, that's all I'm asking for. But he said, I don't feel fair. I feel like I got more value. So he sent me a famous painting that he had on top of that. I said, I will receive the painting, but I'm only asking for this. This is what I want. That's all I want. I've sometimes done things in a short period of time that's made fortunes to people, but I would ask for what I want. If I want to do something and I want to do arrangement and I take a percentage of it, I will rearrange that up front. So I want a percentage of what you grow. I've done that in some cases, and I've made more. But I just want what I'm doing. I want to make sure I've done my savings, done my investments, and done my structures. I like certainty, I like fair exchange, I like going to bed at night, clear consciousness, and I like building momentum and continually growing that.
This is very interesting, John. Thank you for this. You're really over delivering. So I believe if you want, we can have it, next session or something, because this is already too much for my audience, and I just want to chunk it down, as you say, which is, more digestible for people, because the Italian market is not used to this kind of information. I'm trying to bring this information to the Italian market, but it's, it's too much already. So thank you for this, really, John. And where can people find more information about you? Do you have a website or social media or something?
I've got all that. The website is simply drdemartini.com. And there's an educational website. You could go on there and just learn and learn and learn and learn nonstop the rest of your life on there. There's thousands of interviews, podcasts, webinars, there's online programs, there's products, there's live seminars, there's events. You can stay on there and not run out of it. You can do it the rest of your life on there. So just drdemartini.com. There's also a value determination process that I encourage people to do, to go and determine what they really value in life so they can look at what really is priorities in their life. Because many people are living by mothers, fathers, preachers, teachers, conventions, traditions, and mores of other people instead of being true to themselves. It's a complimentary thing. It's private. It takes 30 minutes of your time. But go on there and do the value determination process. It'll be eye-opening. And it'll find out where money is on your values. And if it's even on your values. Because if you have it not even on your values, and it's not top 4 of your values, financial independence, I've proven 42 years, if it's not in the top 4, you're not going to make financial independence. It just doesn't happen. So you got to look at where you are and be honest about who you are. And there's a way of shifting the values on there, identifying them, shifting them, and applying them. It's a gold mine. Very useful thing for people.
Wow, yeah, I advise everybody to go do it. We'll put a link to your website underneath the video when we'll publish it. Yeah, wow, okay. Thank you, Dr. John Demartini. I'm gonna stop the recording, just stay online for 1 more minute. And yeah, thank you. And thank you again.